Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the second day of our online theatre tutorial. Today we have Deepan Shivaraman ji with us as our esteemed speaker. First of all, I would like to welcome you all and thank you again for being with us. It is indeed so nice to have you back with us. And then, of course, I would like to extend my heartiest gratitude to our distinguished panelists who have taken the time out of their busy schedule to speak to us, to be with us, to share their experiences and their expertise with us over these 10 days for absolutely no remuneration. I would like to remind our audience members again that all the money that we are collecting from this workshop will actually be donated to the Pathor Pratima Runners, which is a non-profit organization working towards relief, rehabilitation, and sustainable development in the villages of the Sundarbans. So now I would like to invite our teacher, mentor, and the artistic director of Koshba Orgo, Sri Monish Mitro, to begin the proceedings of the day with some introductory remarks. Sir, if you could take over here.
Good evening. I welcome you all to the second day of this online theatre class. And welcome, Deepan. We believe we would have a very nice session today as well. Neelam Mansingh Ji delivered a wonderful lecture yesterday, and subsequently we had a very open-minded and a very frank and free interactive session as well. I would just request everyone to kindly put the cameras on of the videos so that Deepan does not have an experience of speaking to a wall or speaking to some dead photographs. It's very difficult for a theatre person to speak in a virtual media, interact about anything related to theatre in a virtual media, but everybody is trying to make it the most vibrant and lively. It can only be possible if you kindly put your cameras on in the systems. Then at least your expressions are visible to the speaker and he gets an extra energy. And kindly do ensure to keep your systems muted. Like the other days, we would also have an interactive session after Deepan finishes his lecture. I guess it would be a very, very interesting lecture from Deepan. I would request Maurakshi to tell a few words about Deepan. Deepan doesn't require any introduction, but still, if you can kindly uh, tell us a
Of,
little about him.
of course, sir. Indeed, he doesn't require any introduction, but still, I would like to say a few lines. So, Deepan Shivaraman is a theatre director, scenographer, dramaturge, and educator based in Delhi. He holds a master's in scenography from Central St. Martin's College of Art in Design, and his practice based research, titled Spatial Identities and Visual Language in Indian Theatre, from Wimbledon College of Art, London, explored the possibility of an interactive visual language, which serves as an alternative to word based drama. At present, Deepan is the Dean of School of Culture and Creative Expressions at the Ambedkar University in Delhi. He is the founding artistic director of Oxygen Theatre Company based in Kerala and Performance Studies Collective based in Delhi. During the last 20 years, he has designed and directed more than 70 theatre productions for various companies and academic institutions in India and Europe. Some of his notable works have been performed in festivals such as Avignon, Alameda, Edinburgh, ULICA Krakow. I would like to repeat the last line because I think there was some technical difficulty. Some of his notable works have been performed in festivals such as Avignon, Alameda, Edinburgh, ULICA Krakow, Wuhan, Shanghai, Prithvi, Meta, and Bharatrang Mahotsav. Deepan served as the artistic director of International Theatre Festival of Kerala in 2013. His notable works are Khasakinte Itihasam, Spinal Cord, Peer Gate, Dark Things, The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, Nationalism Project, and Ubu Roy. He collaborated as scenographer with directors such as Neelam Man Singh Chaudhary in her productions Bitterfruit and Naked Voices, Anuradha Kapoorji in Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, Virasat and Nale Wali Larki, and Abhilash Pillaiji, Verdigris and Talatu. So, Deepanji, I would like to invite you now to begin your talk. It is indeed such a privilege to have you with us.
Hi, hello everyone. Good evening. Yes, this COVID lockdown allowed us to be in the situation, but whatever the situation is that this is actually open up a lot of avenues to have such events across the country, and maybe the number of such lecture series and study classes that have happened last year and a half, maybe double the number of the total number of classes and study classes that took place maybe in modern theatre till 2019. That many number of such events took place across the country on various platforms. It's a great thing. And some of these conversations may turn into be more of a printed document of a book form as well. Some of those.
Deepan,
Yeah.
Deepan, I'm sorry, apologies for this interruption. I guess your voice is not that clear. Would you
My
kindly...
voice is not very clear. I have done my voice exercise in the morning.
But
See, let me try once again, okay?
I think it's better now. Is it okay for everybody else also? Would you kindly put a comment in the chat box?
Yeah, it looks like everybody has muted. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, Deepan, perfect.
All right. Am I audible better now?
Yes, it's better now. It's better now. Yes.
Yeah, I hope it's better. We have to carry on with it. I mean, the problem is that with this online mode, we can never predict the quality of the voice and the image. So we have to somehow kind of cope with it. Otherwise, we're going to lose more time. If you can hear me, 75% of what I'm saying, I'll be happy. So
Okay.
I'll say a little bit more, so you get at least 75% of it. Okay. All right. So let us begin this. So I am going to talk about theater and visual language. That's a topic, that we have decided for today. I'll talk continuously for an hour, hopefully, and I hope Manish or somebody else will intervene in between and tell me and ask me some questions, and I could actually unpick some of the things I discussed in the 1 hour slot, and I could actually kind of answer it. And also I'll open it up to rest of the members here. Then you could also ask me some questions. I try to answer, and by answering, I'll continue to articulate my ideas further. This is my plan at the moment. I do have some images I put together as a PPT presentation. They're not really a presentation. They're actually kind of, I'm going to show you some images in between. And also there are some 4 or 6 video footages. I will show you that as well, because we're talking about visual language, and too much of textual business won't be very, appropriate for this particular topic. So I kind of trying to, bring as much as visual material as possible in between, so we get more idea of what I'm trying to kind of articulate. Okay. So when we talk about visual language, I mean, one may immediately think, why do we have to talk about visual language? Theater is a visual language anyway, right? We say that we watched a play other day, or I am going to watch another play tomorrow. So meaning that we always in agreement that theater is something to see, something to watch. If there is something to listen, or only to listen, then we call that a broadcast drama or a radio drama. All the stage performances or site-specific performances, whatever that fall in the language of theater and performance, we see it. So there is a visual language. Now the question is, then what is that visual language? What to show and what to see? This is a very important question. What to show and how to show is the thing, something which I would like to maybe focus upon today. Conventionally, when we talk about visualizing a play, we all have here this terminology, visualizing a play, physicalizing a play. Physicalizing or visualizing a play means that there is something, a format of a play pre-exists in a written form. And that written form describes what is actually happening in the space. The actors' conversations and what all that has to come and go in the performative space will be described in a textual form. That's what we call a dramatic text, right? There is dialogues and stage directions. Dialogues and stage directions. Stage directions are often considered as a pathway to physicalize the play. So that means that we often begin from the text. Let us go back to that idea. We have been away from that, this whole process of playmaking maybe for a year and a half. It's good to go back to that. The model existed, and we practiced and still practice many directives. And now what is that process of physicalizing this particular text-based work? So we take a play, and often the director go through it. And when there is a playmaking process begin, the rehearsal process begin, the director introduces this text to the actors and the technical team, right? And we do have a play reading sessions. It's always been considered a very important part of the playmaking process. A play reading session would take roughly about a week of time. If it's a big play, that actors sit together and read, and director explains what is this play is about, what is underneath this play? What is the subtext of this play? What the writer intended to say? What a director planning to do with this play? Is he or she planning to physicalize as it is written by the writer, or is it going to be adapted or a physicalized in a different way, bringing down to the locale of the particular performance when it takes place? Such things normally get discussed in this play reading process. Actors and team get used to get most of this plays. Play reading often attended by the actors and the director. Rest of the technical team normally won't be there. They will come a little later into the process. So in that process, we invest so much of time into the text. Then next process, often conventionally we follow, is the improvisation process. This improvisation process lasts another 10 to 15 days, and to unpick some of these ideas from the text and hand over to the actors, individuals, a group, and ask them to come up with ideas, physicalize it the way they imagine how they're supposed to physicalize it. Such a physicalization through improvisation may take place in another 10 to 15 days of time. Sometimes some directors don't read the play first, but they start improvisation first. And under improvisation process, they may bring some of these ideas from the text without introducing directly to the actors. And improvisation may continue, and only towards the end of the improvisation, text may get introduced. Then actors start to realize that, oh, this improvisation idea is coming from this text, and this is the reason the director asked us to do these certain things. And now we get to know the complete picture. This is the play. So the play reading and improvisation or introduction or familiarizing with the play. This is what I meant by improvisation reading, familiarizing with the text. Once that process is over, the next process often be casting. In a conventional theater, conventional ways of when you approach theater production, this casting took place, where we directly decide who will do what cast. Once the casting is over, then next is basically we call the blocking. We start to block sequences, right? And in order to block it, we need a space to do it. From where the space coming from? So director has already imagined this play is going to be taking place in a certain way. And the director will in a improvisational space or rehearsal space, maybe can considerably small space where the rehearsal take place, unlike the actual performance going to take place maybe later stage. So we imagine a real performative space within the very small space, and in that space, maybe small or big space, doesn't matter, wherever the rehearsal take place. But things put together to give a feel of the site, the living room, or is it a market square, or is it a palace or a courtroom? They put together items, whatever they find in that premise, furniture, broken things in there, to give an idea of the site and start to block the sequences. So the director and the actors together start to construct the play without even having a dialogue with any of the designing team at this moment of time. Which is true. So from which point, in that case, the designers enter into this entire discourse of the making process? Often almost halfway through. Halfway through, often as a designer will invite to visit the space and they see maybe the improvisation. Sometimes even designer may not even come and see the improvisation, but only meet the director in a private place, in a cafe or something, and explain, this is what I'm thinking, this is what I want. And if designer happen to visit the performance improvisation or the blocking of the scene, and the designer understand that there is a living room, there is a left side, there's an entry point, and there's a balcony up there, and there's a kitchen here, there's a sofa and chair. Maybe it's all suggestive, but it's all there, and the director explained to the designer, this is what I've imagined. So what we can do with it? Then, by that time, play already may have started constructed. So once a play is being made, sequence being made using that particular space with an improvised scenic setting, designer might not have much of a room to play anymore from there, because many things already been decided by the actors and the director. So that point of time, designer often say that, why don't we bring the kitchen with downstage? Or maybe we could actually, move the balcony to the left side and maybe the main entry to the right side. Some kind of arrangements may be suggested by the designer, and they may make some drawings, and very seldom may make a model box to show this to the director and the team of the people. This is going to be the real set once this is all done. So all the team will get an idea. Okay, we are improvising this kind of imaginative space now, but we're gonna go into a real space, and this is the scale of that space. Sometimes actors and the team will visit that theater some point of time to get a sense of what this theater offers. After that process, once they have maybe desire kind of intervene and just change the balcony from right to left and kitchen from back to downstage, and then maybe kind of a main entry to the space, maybe shifted to right from left. And that kind of a negotiation that took place with the director and the team of makers almost towards end of the process, a costume designer may be invited and explain in very detail, this is a character who is office going woman and she's 25-year-old. This is a man, he is a 55-year-old, retired, or he just doesn't work, do any job, just sitting at home and reading newspaper and watch television. So we need a costume for this fellow and this working woman. So costume designer will actually kind of look at the preferences of such scenarios. If it's a realistic play or if it's a stylized play, then again, what this performance is planning to achieve. And based on that, also the conversation that happened with the director and seeing maybe some of the rehearsals, costume designer come up with some ideas and directly go to purchase fabric and stitches. And the team will probably get their costume in hand day before the show date. The dress rehearsal is the time they can wear it. Sometimes the morning of the show also get the costume. Lighting designer come 2 days before the show, often don't come to the rehearsal space, directly come to the theater space, and he'll tell, okay, this is the space, is the kitchen here, there is a balcony, this is the living room, all right, okay, there is a murder take place, I'm going to use some red light, and there's somebody's chasing, I'm going to use maybe photo spot, and photo spotlight I'll be used. Maybe there's a dream, a fantasy of this young girl while she's sleeping, or this man sitting and watching television. And I've done this suggest, oh, I'm going to use a frontal light with a blue filter. So that is the way a visual language of a play often gets formulated. Whether we like it or not, this is reality. This often happens. In most of the productions, this is a process that takes place. Now, we know the designing team, meaning the last three people ended with the game. If there is a designer, costume designer, lighting designer. Of course, there are more people. If you have using puppets, or if you use many of those scenic elements or objects in the use, there may be object maker, props maker all involved. But all those people, or choreographer, all those people handle the visual side of the play, meaning the visual side of the visual language of the work, or they have made their major stakeholders of the visual language. I'm not talking about only the designing team is the stakeholders of visual language. Certainly not. Both actors' body and their movement and the directorial vision, all part of the making of the language we call it visual language. However, the designing team's contribution to the entire process of making such a work is very, very minimal. That means, in a way, the director resides in the imagination of the written text, and the designing team often resides in the imagination of the director. There is a bit of a hierarchy here. The top is the writer, and they held that hierarchy for a long, long time. Still now, they, I think, hold a lot of hierarchies in many of dramatic commercial theatre. And the director come in that line second, and the rest of the team often been told in very detail what they're supposed to be doing. So is there no alternative to this idea? Of course, there is no alternative. And it's already in place, such alternative process already in place. Many directors make productions through a devised process. It's called devised theater. It's very, very known kind of theater now, devised theater. That means you don't necessarily need to have a solid play, but you could actually devise it from an experience of actors. You can take it an incident that you spot in the newspaper, or you could actually look at a cinema as a material to begin the process. You can look at a story, a novel, a poetry. Even a play itself could be a starting point in order to devise the story. So such theatre productions do certainly do have a different process. But however, not necessarily that the designing team would be part of the initial imagination of the dramatic structure. So what I'm proposing, what I'm talking about today is that a kind of theater where it's more collaborative and where the entire process of making work begin from the very early stage of gathering for the rehearsal, where the designer, all kind of people come together, and in the discussion, basically they contribute their area of discipline, and that's kind of a weave through. And who's actually leading it? Maybe often the director is the person who weave this all together to make a meaning of that. Now, this process of scenography intervention that takes place in the very beginning means in a different approach. That then you cannot have the hierarchy of text, because the moment the text hold the hierarchy, then scenographic interventions will have to follow the direction that's been already given by the writer. There is a bit of a contradicting factor here. A writer's imagination and a visual designer's imagination is two different things. Many of such possibilities and probabilities that one have to explore when you actually put together the work. Not necessarily that you could actually do a production the way a writer imagines when the writer wrote it. This all depends on various factors. The money, one factor, of course, it's a big factor. How much money you have got to put together the show. And also a factor is where you're going to do this. Are you going to have a large theater? You're going to have a warehouse? You're going to do an open air? All those decisions really matter. So as visual design entering to the very beginning of the process is what I'm going to talk about. It's primarily based on my own practice and my own collaborations with many other directors and the kind of work I have myself produced. And in this process is one thing is very important. I, as a scenographer, often try to shift the focus. I try to shift the focus from text to the space. It's very important. You shift the focus from text to the space. So the entire play reading and script pujas and all won't take place there, because you don't really see this text as sacred, that you could put some puja and throw flower at it. The text is a material like any other material. Don't give that much of weightage to the text in the process, because you take the focus from the text to the space. Why? The space is so central. If you take the focus from the text to the space, then why don't you give the from text to the actor, the focus? You can do that. The directors who also work directly take the focus away from the actor. But I am talking about the visual language production. And what we see, we say, in the very beginning, I was starting this conversation, I was talking about that. We often say that we went to watch a play, or I'll be watching a play. It's about watching and seeing. So space is very important. Without space, you cannot see anything. You need a space to see, right? What about that space possibly be? but you need a space. It could be open air space. It could be a building-based theater, a proscenium arts theater. It could be a community hall. It could be a lake, a moving train, a car. You can have a car as a playmaking place that you as a group of actors take a car ride from Kolkata, one place to another place, maybe 15 kilometers of drive. And every stop you pick one audience into it. And in that journey, a car full of maybe 8 people in the car, maybe 4 people in the back, and 4 people including driver in the front. And in that journey, the play takes place. Some of them are the 8 people, some of them are actors, some of them audience. And the 15 minutes of that journey end where the performance also ends. Many things happen between. The car stops and you have a server, something else happened, but everything is preset. Everything is well rehearsed and preset. Maybe small accident, a cycle rickshaw come in middle and get an accident. Maybe cycle rickshaw while also was an actor. Those people will not know. But this entire process of the performance journey from one stop to other, but the car, inside of the car and outside of the car, and during the 15 kilometers of the journey is the space. That's the space we're talking about. So space is a vessel where this entire action can take place. In performative body, when we talk about the vessel, I would like to bring something here, which we are all familiar with the terminology called Kathapatra. Kathapatra, right? Kathapatra is a beautiful ways of explaining character. Because Kathapatra means the vessel, it's a patram that carries the story. Vessels that carries the story, that's a character of Kathapatra. But where this character can exist, the character can exist through the body of an actor. So what is the real vessel is the body of an actor, and the mind is the real vessel where a character can fall. But from where these characters can exist in a larger vessel for them to exist. And this larger vessel is what we call a performative space. It's like a large ship that we take a voyage. And that ship we have audience along with us as well. So this all characters and the journey with the audience. Then we have to certainly think about it. We have to put some attention to where this audience will be, how they're going to experience this play. Will they be traveling along with us, like I explained about the star journey? Or will they be sitting in a theater hall and looking at our performance? And we are performing on a raised platform, and this audience sitting on their chair in a very safe place and looking at us. Or will they be gathered around a performance space and we're looking from all surrounding space, even marina theater, or a promenade theater where the action goes different places and the audience actually follow along with the action. For a site-specific work, we use a Victoria Albert Museum as a site, and where all the audience gather there and the site being actually explored in order to make an event possible. So the entire dramatical construct, the site is so central, isn't it? Site is very central. The space is very central. So that is the reason we're going to talk a little bit more about space, because the vessel that this performance make possible because of the space, the way we negotiate with the space, with the audience and the performer, the way we construct ideas. I say construct ideas in order to make a meaning of what we all trying to do together. So let me bring some examples here from my own practice as a collaborative scenographer and also director, which will give you more clarity on this. A text offer many possibilities. Let's take a text like Shakespeare's Macbeth. It's a very familiar text. We know how text of Macbeth begin. Shakespeare already given some suggestions of three witches making some sort of magic point. Fair is foul and foul is fair. There is a all begin, right? Not necessarily that we should begin there. We could imagine different space. I would rather imagine a space where a large dinner is taking place, where audience also invited to be part of it. A table that's size of a 50, maybe 50 feet or something, a long table, where around 60, 70 people can sit around this table, and there are audience being asked to wear a particular dress code in order to attend this dinner party. About 50 people been invited for this play, and they all been coming. And all they're coming and this witness, there's a large table, all set, and they don't know who are there. And everybody is kind of audience, everybody could be acting. We don't know. And the dinner is about to begin. And there is an elderly man who's sitting the far edge of the table, and this entire dinner is to honor that elderly person. And dinner being served, there is a drink and wine and food and everything. We're having a dinner, and they're having a chat with the people sitting next to us. And we have a little conversation. And that moment of time, the elderly man sitting in the far end start to feel uncomfortable because of the sympathy ache. And he start to puke blood. Starting to puke blood to the table, white cloth, there's everything filled with the blood. And this man is being poisoned in that dinner. And slowly, we start to realize this was a dinner organized by Macbeth to respect Duncan, the king. It was a king, and this entire people around was this entire courtiers. And the Lady Macbeth was the one who was sitting next to you and having a chat with you, asking how is your children. We didn't know. But that moment we realized some of those people were sitting there, Macduff, Banquo, Duncan, Macbeth, all of this Malcolm, all of them were there. But the moment this man was start to puke and start to die on that table, suddenly the situation changed. The entire fabric fall down, pottery, glasses, everything falling to the floor and breaking. So much of chaos. We know that some of those people are army officers. They think that anybody could be suspect. There's a large mirror on one side of this dinner hall, a large mirror, and suddenly there's a gunshot in that building. And we've been told, don't move, anyone can leave the room. You all stay here. Police officers moving. We can hear a sound of an ambulance arriving next door. An ambulance comes, this man's body being taken out in a stretcher. And suddenly there's a gunshot. In the gunshot, then their mirror, which was we seeing, and we ourselves in that side of the mirror suddenly fall down. The moment that mirror broke, then we see about 600 to 700 audience sitting in a gallery, watching the dinner from the other side. So the play has begun much earlier, and the front row of the seat was left vacant for 50 people who were taking part of the dinner. And we've been asked to go and sit there. Play has already begun. And we have in between a broken glass. And the play has begun. Different ways of imagining a space. I just want to give you an idea. There was no play like Macbeth like this. Anyone can do it. Begin a play. So this visual imagination of a site is what I would like to bring in here. Right? Now, let me actually bring some of those work which I have, which I have brought to discuss today is about 6 productions. The 3 productions I collaborated with Anuradha Kapoor, Nale Bala Ladiki, and Virasat, and the production by Neelam Mansingh Chowdhury, Bitter Food, and Abhilash Pillay's Talatam, a production that based on Shakespeare's Tempest. And 3 of my own work, Legends of Gaza, Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, and Dark Things. Let me show you some images to give you some ideas where I'm going to start. Then we will take it from there. Okay, I'm going to share my screen. Give me a second. Right, I hope this is visible. Okay, so this is a production called Legends of Gaza or Gaza in Gaza, which I directed about 4 years ago. And as you could see, this production is taking place in open air space. This play is about a village called Gaza. And this play is revolving around the life of the villagers and the complexity of their life. And this play is very interactive, and sometimes actors go in and around, and the space will create in such a way that such interactive engagement is possible. Let me explain how I came to the conclusion that I'm going to do this production in this manner, in this particular space. This is the space I need to have to make this particular work. During the process, entire performance team went to place, because this play was based on a novel called Legends of Gaza, written by O.V. Vijay in 1959. And this play, he wrote this novel. Sorry, this is not a play, it's based on a novel. It's a very iconic novel, Legends of Gaza in Malayalam language. And this play was inspired by this novel. And this novel was written based on the real life stories of a village called Tasrak, not Gasak, but Tasrak in Palakkad, in Kerala. So O.V. Vijay went to live in this place sometime when he was a younger man. And because his sister was given a job to run one single teacher school in Tasrak, and he accompanied with her because it was in as you can imagine, 1950s. And there was electricity in that village, and Vijay went and stayed with his sister, and they lived in a small seedling house next to a paddy field. Vijay started to imagine this novel from that place. He stayed with her about a year. He was walking around the village, he was meeting people, and all those people in that village became the characters in that novel. Years later, that village has become so famous. And the seedling house where Vijay lived about 50 years ago, now it has become a government property, is a museum of Gaza. It's a museum of Gaza. Now people go to this village as some kind of a pilgrimage to see the village and meet the real people that Vijay observed in order to write this novel. We theatre makers also went to the space to see this real space of paddy field, but we realized that field has changed. The space is not anymore the space Vijay wrote this novel years back. What change took place? Normal change took place. This site has been wrought. There is no more red soil road, and the road been tarred, and paddy field been reduced to small places, and palm trees been cut, and coconut trees been planted. There is not anymore the old mosque that stood there, become a modern mosque. No more burial ground. They have kind of transformed everything there. But we stood there, we walked there, and we realized that space still has the feel of that time Vijay brought this story. I personally felt this entire field started telling stories. This space is more of like an excavation ground. Stories been buried here. The port, the mosque, the field, the road, the sarbat shop, the seedling house, all of that still has space, still has story to tell us, but it's been buried. A new life has sprouted on top of that. So I thought that, a space I could rather imagine or conceptualize as an excavation ground, a culture, a time that has been buried, something which you can unearth, excavate. So there are two major things and two components. One is a tea shop and a tailoring shop. Both this space being ditched, the soil being ditched and buried, this both tailoring machine and tea shop. The people sit inside of the ditch when they have a tea. When the tailoring cloth, man sits in the ditch. So the entire space being conceived such a way, then all the characters emerge from the soil in a way that also disappear in the soil as well. So a lot of characters being buried within that space. The novel is known for its relationship between living and death and nature. The story of death and living and their this ecosystem of around the village of the field and the other living creatures all together coexist in space. So that's a kind of idea that initially formulated in order to come up with this space. And of course, there are many other factors that are also involved in the come up with a language production like this. We use fire, we use gunpowder, we use many water, we use soil and many other things. Then you need a space that this all can be easily be executed. And we cannot easily execute that in a built-based theater because we can use the fire, we can use the water, we can use the gunpowder, there are a lot of restrictions. So the only way you can do is make an open field. Everybody is safe, actors are safe, everybody around is safe. Which also would allow you can bring more people to watch this show. The show is 3 hours and 20 minutes, and it does require a lot of setting and construction. So we cannot actually do this show for very few people. We need to have a larger audience to see this play in order to meet the economy of a production like this. And only we can sell the ticket for the large people so that economically the production is viable. So not just the conceptual side, but many other factors also involved when we actually take a decision on what space we need to have for each production. And that is that decision of making this production open air in the soil and a ditch land as an excavation ground is what made this language, the visual language, unique for this particular production. I want to take you to attention to the process we reached the stage. In this process, certainly, I was the director and I was the designer, and I was also the dramaturg who was writing the play too. So I could actually take care of these three major components. But that's not the case when we often work with the collaborators. For example, I'm going to show another work. Before that, maybe you would like to see a small snippet of this production to get some sense of this visual language. All right, I'll show you that a small video of this play, so you get a sense of how this language came into shape. Okay, then I will move into next production. I'll be talking about production by Anurag and our collaboration that lead into the language of the particular production. So here, I put together some of this here, but I'll come back here at this point. Let me see if I have some. I have some images of this production. These are some of the images of the Legends of the Sun production. But before that, I'm sorry, I'm having too many images and all popping out different places. Let me go back to the idea of showing some a small video of the production. Okay. Bear with me for a minute. All right, here we go. So this is a very short video, with the sense of it, I thought.
ായ തമ്പുരാന്റെയും നബിയുടെയും പദരീങ്ങളുടെയും ദേവനായ സയ്യിദ് മിയാൻ ഷെയ്ഖും തങ്ങന്മാരുമായിരുന്നു. 1000 കുതിരകളും കേടറ്റ വെള്ള കുതിരകളായിരുന്നു. എന്നാൽ ഷെയ്ഖ് തങ്ങളാകട്ടെ ചടച്ച് കിഴവനായ ഒരു പാന്തൻ കുതിരപ്പുറത്താണ് സവാരി ചെയ്തത്. കുതിരയ്ക്ക് കാല് കഴച്ചപ്പോൾ പടം നിൽക്കണമെന്ന് കൽപ്പിച്ചു. തങ്ങന്മാർ കുതിരകളെ കരിമ്പലകളിൽ തളച്ചിട്ടു. രാത്രിയുടെ അവസാന യാമത്തിൽ പാണ്ടൻ കുതിര ചത്തു. സാക്കിലെ പനങ്കാട്ടിലാണ് അവനെ കുത്തിവെച്ചത്. പാണ്ടൻ കുതിരയുടെ പനങ്കാട്ടിൽ തങ്ങന്മാർ പാളയമടിച്ചു. ആ പാളയത്തിന്റെ സന്തതികൾ അത്രേ ഖസാക്കുകാർ.
Yes, so that was the play or Legends of Kazakh. So you get some idea of that kind of visual language of that play. And I also kind of trying to explain you how I reached that place of that production. I'm sure you will have some questions to ask, but I'll take that question in the later stage. Somebody may be interviewed in the later stage when I will be showing more of my work. Let me go to another production of a collaborative project. The process is slightly different here. Wait a second. Let's see which one I have planned. Yeah, this particular production I'm going to talk about is the Virasat. And this play was written by Mahesh Ikunjua, and it's a trilogy, and Anuradha Kapoor, I think 2012 or 13, directed this play for a National Sport Drama Company. And she invited me to design this work, scenography for this project. And I have not really done much of realistic, hyper-realistic plays. And those who know the Virasat text, it's quite a real life stories and enactment of real life stories does require a site where you can have a space that can go along with the real life story. Then in that process, I'll show you 2 images. Then it makes sense. Yeah, this is not the image. This is the image of that play. Virasat. So now you could see the space, this in the interior of a space, right? You can see this, right? I hope you can see. Yeah. And another image here. I have only have two images. I don't have a video recording of this production, but I'll explain what this space really offers to the audience and the actors. So this play is about a family, a group family once lived as together. Now not anymore a group family. Older days such big families live together in one building, and they slowly moved away, and they all coming back because the eldest man in the family just passed away, and they are all coming for the last rites of the dead man, and the family there decide to stay for some days, like normally we all do when we go to our own family back, and some of our member of the family, my eldest person passed away, and the rest of the family members stays there for a few days. And in that few days of stay, from that conversation, from that family members, we start to realize this family is in deep trouble. They are in deep debt, and they have problems of their wealth sharing, many other things. We start to listen to them. So when I this is the story of Virasat anyway. I mean, not necessarily anything special about the story, how you will be showing this, unless if you have a different proposition to show it. Because in the conventionally, we can imagine this take place on a proscenium stage, and the story life of these people, and we sit in the stage, chair and watch it. But I and Radha Kapoor, we were thinking about how to come up with a different proposition for saying this work. And I was going through the rehearsal process quite a time, and I could not really get an idea in my mind to offer to them. One day, I remember that time when Anuradha Kapoor invited me for an improvisation, where these actors were improvising in a repertory company, small, studio theater. It's still end on stage, and they were basically improvising in that space. And that particular day, improvisation was very special, I felt, because they made entire house in a place that an elderly man passed away. His body was still there, actually. And we, two, three of us, I don't remember who were with us, but myself and Radha were certainly there. And we were asked to go inside of the room of the house. And we walked through that space, and every room were already animated with the actors' performances. A dead body was lying there. Some people were sitting next to it. Some children far away was playing. And there were some people, that two men were sitting and talking about their work, having some tea. And we eventually reached the kitchen. And we were sitting in the kitchen with all the women washing, their bartans, and they also talk about the family matters. And we know that body is somewhere there lying. We can have the smell of agarbatti, and rest of the things we can. Some people walk into the kitchen and they go back, but we are sitting in the kitchen and listening. But we know that the life is happening inside of the entire house, but we can only see in the kitchen. So that was a very, very special improvisation, I felt. After sitting through that improvisation, I have decided that we have got a desire for this work. And that was the trigger to come up with such a proposition that the audience should come as we came. Audience should come inside of the house as maybe they're not as a neighbors, not as a viewers, but as a family members who coming to take part of the funeral of this elderly man. About 150 people could come. And these people, when they come, they enter into front door of the house. Then you need to make a large house, an open field. We made a big space where the audience enter into the front door,
and the audience being asked to go and sit in different places. So some section of the people come and sit in the kitchen. Some people will go to the front portico. Some people go to sit in the balcony space. Some people sit in the veranda. Some people sit in the farming side of where they keep all farming goods. And this whole audience by sitting in different places. But you should imagine one thing, those sit in the kitchen and watch the play will have a different story, different narrative of the entire family's life. Because the woman who cook in the kitchen all the time remain there and they make their sabji and chapati. And the smell and the spices all the time coming to the face of the audience. And we listen to this murmuring stories of what is people, women speak. But we can also hear the stories of other places as well. But our first view is this woman. We cook. Those people sit in the balcony. There is another woman who desperately want to get educated and go away from this entire village, but she was never allowed. An entire life she lived and she died there. And if you watch this play from her point of view, we will have from top to lower ankle. We will have a different story of the entire narrative. Same story, but a different angle. If you sit in a veranda where the younger people sitting on sing and also enjoy the food or drink prepared in the kitchen, and if you watch the play from their point of view, you will have a different view of the entire family problem. Towards half of the play, we ask the audience to change their seats. If you are sitting in the kitchen, go and sit in the veranda. Those who are sitting in the veranda come to kitchen, and you will understand how the status quo of the people in this family will function. How their family relationship with these people are kind of negotiated according to the space where they belong. But we ask the audience to shift the space. So the visual language of this play is very spatially constructed. I said spatially constructed. The spatial construction of this entire work is very central, the way you watch this play. Towards the end of the play, and in Anuradha Kapoor's version, the younger lot coming back together and start to rebuild the family, rebuild it with the brick and soil. Literally, they put brick by brick and build the wall. So the house was not built before. No, house was half built. When the audience entered, house was half built. The only roof structure was there. You can see the half wall is been built. Half kitchen side is been built. It's a half built house. It's not a fully built house. Actors themselves built the wall of the house. So the making of that scenography and putting people in a different way to negotiate the spectatorship within this particular production was very central to the visual language of this production. Anuradha Kapoor, I think, is here. I hope she will have something to say about it towards the end of this presentation. But it was a very exciting experience of working that production. I also have had an experience of being a carpenter one point of time in my life. And I have built houses. I have built traditional houses with my father. And that experience really helped me when I was doing this work. It was a very long time back, but designing the space was very, very complex because we could not afford to make a particular set of audience cannot see another action, another side of the play. This was the most challenging part of the designing this particular work. Because an audience who's sitting in the kitchen, they must see rest of the action as well. How do you do it? How do you do it? Somebody sitting in the balcony, they can also see somebody is actually lying next to the the bed, and basically he's crying because of the wound, and he is a farmer, youngest brother. How do you make sure this people can watch all of it, at least most of it, and get a feel of what is actually going on in the family? But still look like a house, half-built house. So when audience enter, what they say is the space is more of like a house, maybe 45 or 50 foot square house, that's still big. And that is also a space for the both audience and actors. So we share the space. right? We share it. Audience and the actors share the space. The next project I would like to talk about is a production I have collaborated with Neelam Singh Chowdhury, and this is production called Bitter Fruit. Maybe she have already spoke about it yesterday's production. And this was a series of stories of Sadat Hasan Manto. And this was the first time we were collaborating. And I'll talk about a little bit about the experience of the proposing and language that came together in the end. I came to this project sometime, not in the midway, but a bit more earlier, but they have already started improvising that and start to imagine a space when I came to see the work, improvisation. The first thing that came to my mind is that what is the common factor of Manto's stories? It's all partition stories, as you know. It's all partition stories. Lots of agony, lot of pain, you know, lot of separation, a lot of lost life or lost land. So I thought this space has to be one common character. A common character is a place is more of like a right song, a place where people can burn down things. Shops and houses been burned down. Everything is a burned down. It's a melting things. And people enter into the space, completely burned down place. But the life is still on. People still live there. If they want to imagine a past, a time when they really have had a paddy field, they have had a time, rain and field, then I have to bring a bed of grass to the place. So in this burned down space, an actor pull something, it's like a shelf from a wall, and a bed of grass come to the space. And a scene of a past, of a good time can be performed. And in one push, that will disappear to the wall of that past, will disappear into the wall. There's a sequence of two actors. They're falling in love. And a woman was washing some cloth, and this man was having a conversation with her. When I went to see the rehearsal, they were using a metal trunk. A metal trunk was used. In the play I suggested Neelam, they could put them in a place where maybe a ditch land, meaning more of like a grave, two graves. Why grave? Maybe these people they're not alive. Maybe they're dead during the riots. Only their memories exist there. So these two people coming out of the grave, and they share their moment of their joy of the time they have enough. We don't know. Maybe one person left to Pakistan, another person stays in India. Maybe they're both of them dead. But that idea of bringing them out of a grave kind of site will give you a different visual idea to the audience. Apart from the text as well. By setting them in a particular way, you give a different layer than the story. So the entire space is basically, there's another layer beneath the layer what you see. And that another layer is a conceived layer. At that layer, we will have a different thing that we can open it up and we realize there's a muddy layer in the floor one point of time. And I still remember there was something very interesting thing Neelam said. Before that, I'll show you some images of that section. Amra, this is the image I was talking about, the grave thing. Something that come out of this. And right side you can see the grass of bed. But this is a more of like a draw that coming out of the wall and can go back. But the entire space is more of like a burned down site. You can see this entire space in structure. So when I was designing this work, Neelam said where I'm going to put my singers, and they're beautiful singers. They have been with Neelam for many years, and Neelam said I must have them. They must have them on space. They cannot be behind the screen. They should be on stage. So I suggested to Neelam that on the right side of this performance space, there is an annex room. And I put a window there in that room with a glass window. And this glass window, we broke the window. And the entire window was broken. And through that window glass, you can see a group of singers, elderly singers, singing and playing for the play. But the entire broken glass is even lying on them, on the floor everywhere. It's like a burned down space, but these musicians are still singing for the life of the people there, which I thought a fascinating ways of engaging with the mantra stories. But I hope this get an idea of in a collaboration, how such a things get exposed. There was different moments of time we have kind of shared our ideas, and we kind of discussed and desired the material usage and the ways and certain things can be resolved. There was another production followed by this, something called the Naked Voices, which is in a way a second part of the play. But it's not just about the manto, but other stories were there. I will also share some images of the production, but I'm not going to talk about it too much of this one. And this particular work, this particular slide which you see is from Naked Voices. The only one thing what you have to imagine is that this is the same place where the previous play took place, the same black box theater. So the entire things what you see here, the mirror on the left side, the urinal where the woman sit, three people sit in front, everything is being constructed for the space. And this is the images from that production of Naked Voices. This is all from that Naked Voices. This is an image from Legends of Kasad. Now let me go back to a production I have directed, and this was sometime back with a group of university students, and you could see the production is called The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. And this particular image is coming from Bangalore show, where we have a very interesting backspace. I mean, what you all see is a building structure which already exists there, and when the audience see the play, you can also see this very spectacular building stand behind there. This particular play is based on a movie called Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, which is 1920s silent film, which is about it's a very, very well-known cinema. Some of you may already know it. It's very important avant-garde cinema, which was the beginning of German expressionistic explorations. And this particular work I did with the students of Ambedkar University. And the students actually put together the dramaturgy, especially a student called Purav Goswami. He worked on the dramaturgy, and we worked in a warehouse space initially to make the performance possible. What you see now is the constructed scenography when we perform this play in different places, because we start to travel with this show and we kind of come up with a different proposition, but not too far away from the initial idea of the warehouse space, where the action took place from that space, which we explore the possibilities of that existing site. The reason why I want to talk about this piece is mainly because of this play was negotiated. The dramaturgical construction was negotiated with an existing space. If this play, the reason why the play looks like this, because this play, when we were making this play, there was a warehouse, and the warehouse offered certain possibilities. For example, there is a door in the back. You can see there's a door in the back here, a door where this motorbike enters, the policeman enters, because there was a metal door in that warehouse that allowed us to make sure that a vehicle can come inside of it. If there was no metal door there opening to the outside, we might not have a motorbike in the show. There was glass windows, there was a broken water pipes, and all this became part of the scenography of this book. And such a negotiation often take place, especially academic institution where when we try to make a work within a very limited resources, we have to look at what is there. I and Anuradha Kapoor collaborated another project, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, again for a National School of Drama, a student project where we have looked at the existing possibilities of the site. Of course, we constructed certain things, but the production was a proven art performance language, and this entire visual language was kind of developed from that existing site, what offered. The journey of the action was very much using the actual site. So the actual site was a raw material. Let me show you a small video of this work. Of this production called Caligari, which I think is important to show you when I speak about visual language. Let me stop sharing this and also show you a video. Right. So that was a production for the cabinet of Dr. Caligari. Okay, I think we have got, what time is now? 6:15.
It's 6:25.
6:25. Okay, all right. Okay, I thought I would speak 1 hour. I will keep talking and not stop. Right. I'll try to conclude, and I'll give Manish Mitra a chance to intervene and will ask me something. I'll show you one more work. I was planning to show this. It's called Talatam of Abhilash Pilay's work, because Abhilash Pillai also coming to talk about his practice, and I thought it'd be interesting to discuss some of my experience of working with him and coming up with this idea of this visual language for Talatam, a crazy play. So let me actually show you some images of that work first. Here it is. So this is the Talatam space, scenography, as you could see. Talatam, I think it's 2016 or 17, which we made, and this was commissioned by Serendipity Art Festival, and we were working on this production in Kerala, based on Tempest, Shakespeare's Tempest, and this play was inside of a circus tent, as you could see. This was a circus tent, okay, and play was inside of a circus tent. So you have to kind of go inside of it to see it. It's a two-pole circus tent, and about 1,500 people can watch it. I think about 1,500 people can watch it. It's all gallery. Everything was designed and constructed for this particular production. It's a very large scenography. The subject is about 35 feet high or 30 feet high or something. This woman, what you see, this character called Sycorax. Sycorax is the mother of Caliban, and the cycle ring, which you can see, cycle ring. I mean, this is the not cycle ring, circus ring. This is circus ring. Traditionally, circus ring. But this entire work is more of like as you could see, it's happening on the lap of Sycorax. The Sycorax's lap is where the play takes place. The tempest, the storm, the ocean, everything is taking place. Is her lap. The water is this her lap is where the ocean. Her body is what get violated by the Prospero and the foreigners who come into this village and take over this entire village, entire island that belonged to Sycorax and her son Caliban and all those Arians who existed there. And Prospero, and a European Italian man who coming there with his daughter Miranda and enslave Caliban and sent away the Sycorax and also enslave the Arians and the spirits using his magic with a promise that I will let all of you free in the end, and made Caliban work for them. So this is a very colonial take on the Tempest. Of course, not the first time, a group of artists to look at the colonial aspect of Shakespeare, especially Tempest play. But this particular work I thought was interesting because of the way in which we handled that. So especially this particular object I'm talking about, this body of the Sycorax and this entire space being created, where the object we're sitting here, this little fellow in a balloon, this is Caliban, and this is 6 feet tall. This is quite a big baby boy, and his umbilical cord is going to the audience gallery. So very beginning of the play, what happened is this little balloon thing was lying flat, and the air pumped to this body of this baby, and this baby became a monstrous shape. And that is the beginning of the play. Then Caliban been born, and this puppet actually moved. I mean, we did not move the way we wanted to move, but it moved. He's open his mouth and move his head and raise hands and all those stuff. This object does. But the idea of this making Sycorax as the central space where this action take place was, and I thought it was important decision I and Abhilash Pillai together took, because that is where this entire space become rather a metaphor, that a woman, a psychorax woman sitting in the middle of a circus tent where the show is going to take place. And our idea was actually to use the circus tent as a storytelling canvas. As you could see here, it was one of my very initial drawing I made, Talatam, an adaptation of Shakespeare. And the story of the Shakespeare been painted as a graphics novel on top of the roof of the circus tent, where audience can walk around. And this is an enormous space. I mean, this is almost like 100 feet or more circle with a large roof. So audience can look at the torch in their hand and they can look at the story of Shakespeare on the rooftop. And if they want to see what is inside, the way we have actually going to tell, they have to come inside. That's a different take on Shakespeare's temples. But if you want to get the story of the Shakespeare, that you have to go outside of the tent and look at the roof of the tent with the torchlight. That was our idea. We did not manage to do this graphic novel stuff in the end, but we did manage to do quite a bit for this production. I think I'll end with the one last work. This is a project of my own work and a collaborative work with Anuradha Kapoor and many other artists. This was written by Arisitas. It's a production called Dark Things. And this is about, it's about looking at the laborers, artist as the laborer, and the laborers out there in the factory spaces. And they tell the story of their life during a coffee break. And this was, by the way, that this is a drawing of that production when we actually rebuilt the scenography for another show or another opening, another place from the initial place. And this is the real backdrop. And this is basically 60 foot wide and about 40 foot tall factory, suggestive factory, code hoarding cutout. And the actors perform in forefront. I'll show you some images of this, of various sequences, and also maybe show a small video of it in the end to give you a sense of the language of the production. So this is the work of Dark Things, but I just also show you a small video, and I'll maybe talk about a little bit about the way we arrived this visual language production. I told you this was a factory space which we wanted, and there is a university space. There is normally faculty members and administrative staff park their vehicles and parking lot behind the backyard of the Ambedkar University building, where we use that space as the backdrop to make this work possible. So this entire a performance of the life of factory workers been performed in a look-alike site of a factory, and in between the factory workers run away from us when the factory siren comes. That's in a way is a call for them to attend their responsibilities. And once in between they come back again and tell us rest of the life. And it's going back and forth for their coffee break and come back. And there's a structure of the performance. I'll show you a small video of it. By the way, the audio of the videos are audible, right? I hope it is audible.
Yes, they are audible.
Okay. Let me do it again. I was just under the impression maybe it was not audible, but anyway, it's good. There you go.
Like a screw on the workshop floor in this dark, dark night of overtime plunging, clinking, clinking. I drop down like a screw, not an angel without wings, plunging, but a screw. Before I looked again at the ocean, before I looked again at the waves, at the stars, at the waterfalls, but I drop like a screw. I drop, what a drop I drop. Unnoticed,
All right. I think I should, stop here. My constant one-sided talk, and maybe I would ask somebody like Manish Mitra, for example, or any of you, and ask me some very nice question. Okay.
Deepan,
Sir.
I'm now?
Yes, you're audible.
Yes. Thank you so much, Deepan. But I'm doubting that whether you really talked for 1.5 hours, because
No,
I'm
I have not.
just having a feeling that you started for just 15 minutes back. It was so intense and interesting. I was listening to you like a first-year student of National School of Drama. It was really, really very, very intense, and um, I think everybody today has enjoyed the talk thoroughly. But before opening this class to the others for question answer session, I would request Anuradha ji, because it's a very good opportunity for us that you had mentioned about Anuradha ji's plays where you had collaborated with her, and if she chooses to mention a few words about that, the collaborative journey, how was it, and how the visual designing.
Yeah, let me start by saying that I think that I will, of course, be talking about this in greater detail. So I just mention a small thing. I think one of the things that I value greatly in the collaborations that Deepan and I have had an opportunity of doing from 2013, wouldn't it be, Deepan? 2013, I think.
2012, we did, I think, Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
Yeah, that's 2012 end and 2000. Yeah, so 2012 end when we did Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and from then onwards we've been working almost regularly. But I think what is the one of the most interesting aspects of our collaboration, in which Deepan has pointed out, is that it's a dialogue that starts almost at the very beginning. And I will be talking about this in my lecture, but as Deepan has also said, it's not that Deepan reads the text and comes, but it's everybody starts reading and improvising and devising on the text at the same time almost. And so what Deepan actually might give to the actors is way before anything else has happened. And that's very important. And let me just add to that little example that he gave about Virasat. And one of the things that, I mean, it's one of the most extraordinary improvisations that actually led to the play. But let me give you a backstory, which actually, dockets with what Deepan said. The backstory is that I had asked the actors to tell the story from the perspective of one room. So then somebody told it from the kitchen, somebody told it from the go down, somebody told it from the bedroom. And as soon as we came to this, and Deepan came and he said, here it is. And therefore, he will give the actors the possibility of enacting what they did in an improvisation as a constant. And I think that was something that actually opened certainly my own eyes to the story, but it also opened the eyes of the actors, the bodies of the actors. And one of the rules of the play also was, because it was a house, and as you know, the play is called Vada Tere Bandi. Vada means a house. And because it was the house, one of the rules of the play was that the actors couldn't leave. They had to be there all the time. If the text asked them to leave, they left. So then Deepan built them a house in which they had to stay for 3.5 hours. So there was food, there was water, there was bartan, there was a puja ghar. They were always there. They also had a little snooze. Actually, that was a fake snooze, but they did sleep. So the question then is, from where does one begin this conversation? It began at the very inception of what is a house. And Deepan has been pointing to that. All our other works have been part of this kind of dialogue, where is the text is material. The text is not some story that exists outside. So I think that in that sense, it's been a very, very special dialogue, because it certainly redefines my own practice, because then it's not my own practice. It is the practice of two people in conversation. So that's all I'd like to say. So it's an exciting journey. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Anurag. Thank you so much. And Nila Mansingh ji and Avilash Pillai ji are also here in the talk. So would you also like to say something and thank Deepan?
I'm just coming, just wondering.
Okay. And Avilash Pillai ji?
I'll come after Neela ma'am. I'll come back.
Okay, fantastic.
I don't know how to, I seem to be, sorry.
We can hear you, Neelam. We can hear you.
Okay, you can hear me, so
yeah,
you don't have to see me. Thank you very much, Deepan. It was.
Would you like to switch on your video? I mean, there is a.
I would like to. I'm struggling. I'm quite clever.
There is a video, maybe a signage on the left side you can find. Just click on it and it will be opened. Here you are.
Deepan, it was absolutely riveting. And I think the collaboration we've had, in a certain way, the play went into so many extraneous dimensions which one had not imagined through the interventions and the perceptions you had about the scenes that I was constructing. So I think true collaborations really kind of challenge and open up your own limitations. This whole thing about coming from the grave, which he referred to in his talk when he mentioned bitter fruit. It's true, I'd not thought about it. For me, it was like they were under the basement, but the whole thing about the green draw that comes out, the slight dimension of affirmation in a very bleak landscape were all aspects and dimensions that were actually created by Deepan. And I think it's wonderful because he gets engaged He doesn't come, as Anuradha very rightly uh, uh, said, that he doesn't just come and design, he actually participates. He is as much part of that journey that is taken by the director, the actors. Scenography played a very, very significant role in the two productions that I have collaborated with Deepan. Thank you very much. The talk was wonderful. It gave me an insight into many things which perhaps I was conscious of, but not articulated in my uh, relationship with the work that we did together. Thank you very much, Deepan. It was wonderful.
Thank you, Neelamji. It's amazing, no? When Deepan is talking about the way they had collaborated, the director is also present and the director is also contributing. So it's really becoming a very significant session for all of us who are listening to it. So Abhilashji.
Yes, Deepan, it was wonderful. Once again, listening to you. And see, Deepan, I think we started working together from 1995 onwards or something, if I'm right, Deepan. And what is something which is very special working with Deepan is that, because I think I started working with Deepan as an actor, because Deepan started working as an actor and a performer. And one day I would really love to hear, Deepan, your acting journey, your performer journey and scenography is something, because I think that deeply relates, because whenever I work with you, you talk a lot from actors' point of view also. When actors perform, then how their hands move, and then how that hand can be extended. What is the kind of an inner journey of an actor? And so you get into the imagination of actor also, or you get into the journey of whatever the character or performer are. And that's something which is very special as a scenographer and as somebody who's doing scenography, because then one doesn't have to put something from actor's point of view. Because sometimes what happens is when somebody starts working on scenography, we have to keep talking about from different point of view to see that how the space evolves. But Deepan always comes from the space and from performers' point of view, from the musician's point of view. So it's like he would like to see every point of view, and from there he would also develop the space. So that's something which is very special, Deepan. And I think today the talk really gave us a journey of how your inner way of looking at certain material, and then how do you then get into it, and how do you change it? Because I do remember that small puppet of Caliban in this production, in which in a way how Deepan came, sat in the rehearsals, and he was seeing, and there was this problem of how Caliban was performing in an actor, and that's how Deepan brings in this. Deepan says that I could see somebody just lying there and getting the life through the audience, and that's what could be Caliban. So I would say that's Deepan, because that's how he brings in ideas. That's how he would join with the narrative or with the material, and he would give different dimensions. So I have been it's excellent. I think thank you once again for having a nice talk.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Abhilashji.
Abhilash.
Thank you so
Hope you're
much.
keeping well.
Hello?
No,
Yeah.
I'm just saying, thanks, Abhilash. Hope you're keeping well. Let's meet together once again soon.
Yes.
Sure.
Yesterday, Neelamji was telling one thing. If we all remember that Alkaji never liked a curtain call, because he used to say that when the play is over, the actor's business is over. We have one of the very creative actors of in the panel, Suraj Nambiar, with us, who only chooses to be in his performance space and not to be seen anywhere else. He never chooses to be very vocal, but he has finally agreed to talk about how accurate training can be useful for an actor's, for a contemporary actor. Suraj is also here. Suraj, very sorry for bothering you. I know that you are not a very vocal person. You do not like to come in public except when you are performing. But yesterday also I told that though the idea was initiated by Koshbar Co and we have taken the initiative, but it's all our project. And so if you can thank Deepan for this wonderful talk on behalf of Koshbar Co and the entire group of listeners today. Would you mind doing that, Suraj?
Hi.
Hi.
I'm not a very good person to talk. You know that. But thank you, Deepan. And yes, I have seen his couple of plays. And am I audible?
Yes, you are very audible.
Ah. So, Deepan, hi. So it's like, yeah, and it was a very wonderful session, very wonderful session, and I really enjoyed hearing you. And yeah, and I was like very long back, I have seen your spinal cord and Bergin and everything. So I know that it's like.
Thank you, Suraj.
Yeah. No, it's very difficult for me to talk suddenly. That's why. Sorry,
Okay.
but thank you. Thank you.
Nice to see you after a long time. I remember I met you during the Karnabaram, or the performance we did in Manish did in the long night performance.
Uruvangam.
Uruvangam. Yes,
After that,
Uruvangam.
we have
And I
seen.
remember you were performing as Krishna in it.
Yes.
And that
No.
you were,
Last we have seen in Mumbai when Abhilash Shettan was doing Peer Gynt.
Of course, Peer Gynt as well. We saw in Hyderabad, not in Mumbai.
Yeah. Ah, Hyderabad. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Is this session open to the participants to ask questions, and how we kind of wrapping it up?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. Now you can raise hands so that we can come to you and take your question, or you can also put your question in the chat box, and Deepan may try to address the question. And as I told you yesterday also, it may not be a question, it may be a comment, it may be a observation. Yes, we have Dhiman Bhattacharya. He's a Odissi dancer and a very famous actor of our Bengali theatre, and he is a professor in Vishwabharati University. So, Dhiman, if you have a question, please tell us.
Thank you so much for that wonderful session. I've been taking notes, as sir mentioned, like a college kid. Like for me, it was a learning experience. But it also gives me pleasure to add to it that whatever you have been talking about in terms of space and constraints we have as people working within institutions, today is the 80th death anniversary of the founder of this institution, Vishwabharati. And I feel Rabindranath had long felt this, and Vishwabharati as a space, as a performing space, is always intriguing for me because the entire complex, the entire Uttarayan with all the houses of Rabindranath, be it Konark, be it Udichi, Udayan, or our Chatintola, I think they all become a performing space where we can address economic constraints. And also when Moirakshi was really struck me, which is Ubu Roa, Ubu the King, which is by Alfred Jarry. I felt that it is a strong influence in your work, the play itself. And I would have loved to see how you have designed Ubu Roa, because the banquet scene of Macbeth, as you mentioned, I feel that Ubu Roa is a spoof on Macbeth, is a response to Macbeth, it's a kind of reception of Macbeth. So I could really relate that The entire scene where Pauhu and Mauhu, they are farting and they are welching, this entire absurdity. And actually that is where they are conspiring also to kill Duncan. So I could relate those two scenes that maybe it's a strong influence of you designing Macbeth. So this is one thing. And the second thing is that remembering Badal Sarkar, who actually talks about the importance of the significance of bringing in synthesis in art, in theater especially, because after the 1920s or 30s, there is a strong influence of other forms of arts on theater, especially film. So how do you, as a theater artist, as a scenographer, negotiate with the influence of a strong medium like film in your work? So how do you see that? How do you design things, keeping in mind that there is a possibility of somehow converging lines of film as a medium and theater as a medium?
Well, Deepan, I would like to add to the question of Dhiman, add two more points, and you can feel free of having another session to address the question. Would all love to know from you, because the thing that I want to know from you is how your actors actually negotiate with the space. I mean, how you as a director negotiate with Deepan Shivaraman, the scenographer, how the actors interact with the space designed by you through their bodies, though you have said very clearly that it is a complete improvisation process and it goes through a dialogue, as Anuradha also mentioned. But I would love to know about it in much more details, maybe in presence of a couple of your actors. And when I was looking into the videos of the plays that you were showing, and also the plays that I have seen in person, music plays a very important role in your plays. So how does the musical space, how does the musical space negotiate with the physical space? I mean, how do they interact, and how do they contradict, and where do they meet and where do they diverge? This absolute story of construction and deconstruction of this musical space with this physical space. But I know this is this may be a very big thing for you to discuss, so you can discuss it whenever you feel like addressing. Uh, but this is really a question that came into my mind when you were talking.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, thanks for the questions, both the Biman and Manish. I'll try to answer to what Biman was asking about the cinema as a language that is just next door, which is more of like more popular medium to deal with stories than theater now. You know what I have actually tried to do in the terms of because I have used a lot of cinematic material, cinematic language in my theater too. Whether it's the Legends of Gazak or Spinal Cord or Dark Things or a Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, many of these productions do have a big magic cinema role. Cinema plays a magic role. Cinema in terms of two-dimensional moving images, what I meant. Nothing more than that. You know, I mean, cinema as a form, that's what the form is about. And then you can make anything out of it. You capture an image, a moving image, and you can put the images together and you can make a cinema. The documentary cinema, the narrative cinema, fiction cinema, short film, is all depends on you. But the idea is actually capture the image using a technology, which is a camera. So cinema is basically as an art form that emerged out of the industrial revolution and the emergence of the camera as a tool. There was no invention of camera, cinema won't be there. What I tried to do in the terms of I could like the idea of crossing the borders of theater and stick to borders and go into other disciplines of installation art and especially the theater that close to other mediums like installation art and cinema. I always felt very close to medium towards theater and also sports. So in the cinema, one of the major differences in cinema and theater is that
You can cinema, you can show things in detail. Theater, you cannot allow the audience come. You can allow an immersive theater, often you can even come, bring them close to the theater. But one important thing is that cinema can do is that the camera can show more. Camera can show more meaningful details. Can actually capture the eye of an actor and actually show a water is forming, a tear is forming inside of eyes before it's coming down. You might not be able to do that in theater because that's not the way theater always been conceived. And the structure of theater is not going to allow you to do that. So if since theater is a hybrid form of art, family believe in that way, always been as a hybrid form, and theater as a new cinema as a new adding into that into that sort of vocabulary. So what happened is that in my work, for example, if I want to show something close, something I can show it in theater, I might use that as a second layer of a stage image. For example, I could show one image in the play. There is in Legends of Gazak, there's a sequence where the two actors having a dinner, and they're having a dinner in the space, but they're sitting far away from us. And you can see two people sitting around the table talking. But I thought I would like to show their face in close proximity to the viewer. So how do I do it? What I did was I pre-shot their image of the dinner prior to the performance time. And I actually superimposed the image on the large screen on the other side. And inside of that, they're actually having a dinner. And while they're having the dinner, their face will be projected. The profile of their face will be a larger screen projected. And you can listen to their talk simultaneously on the screen and the live. So you can actually look at very closely their facial expressions. And at the same time, you can also see their bodily expressions of having a dinner. I'll show you an image of what I meant. I think I have that image with me. Give me a second. I'm sorry, I could not find that image, but I mean, I explained this is the way that it has been done. And in many other productions, Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, again, there is a sequence of a man being killed. And if you're familiar with the cinema, and this one protagonist actually kind of went to police and to inform them that my friend has been brutally murdered. And police is coming to inquire about it. And two policemen appear into the space on a motorbike. And this man was sitting there, and there was a pool of blood that oozed out of a water pipe. And before the motorbike appear, what's happening there on the screen, there is about an image of the interior of the man being murdered. And that is a photograph that been taken by police officers. When they take it, like when they prepare the inquest, they take photographs from the site, the crime site. So this crime site photograph been captured, and that capturing with the sound of camera been projected in a large screen while the motorbike slowly coming from a garage, opening of the shutter goes up and the motor is emerging inside of it. So it's actually in the narrative, because you have around 10 minutes, but you have so much of layered narrative because of the layering of taken place by the image, the two-dimensional image and the live image. I found that's very fascinating things to do, which cinema cannot offer you that possibility. And in a way, it's also put a challenge to cinema, because cinema put a challenge to theater, and we put a challenge back to cinema. Meaning, how do you solve what we do? The kind of scenographic language we propose in Caligari or a Dark Things or even Legends of Gazak, cinema cannot actually kind of come up with an alternative to that, because it's so immersive. It's so, it's immersive also, it's very multisensorial, because you can smell it. You can eat the food what the actors cooked. You can touch it. You can feel the rain. You can feel the soil. You can feel the smell of the soil when the water flows. And none of this can be offered in cinema. Cinemas become a two-dimensional image where the action takes place in pre-shot and you can see it. But bring this cinematic experience so as theatrical experience all come together into this performance space to give you a special, unique experience that cannot be replaced by any other medium. In a way that we kind of, emphasizing that what theater can offer cannot be replaced by cinema. So we use the cinema for the theater, but same time theater cinema cannot use the theater because theater has that possibility of accommodation, but cinema cannot accommodate theater. I also, because you asked about overall a production, and I asked this, my imagination of the production. Yes, you're quite right. And in fact, there is a banquet scene in Uberoi too. If you don't mind, I can actually show you a small video of the production, get a sense of how I imagine that. First, I'll show you one couple of images of that show to get a sense of it. So yes, so this is the scenography of Uberoi, as you could see. Sorry. Yeah, here it is. So this is the scenography of Ubua. I mean, it's more of like a jail, right? It's surrounded by metal wire and electricity. And this audience are sitting inside of the jail. It's more of like a trapped scenario. Whether you like it or not, you cannot leave it. It's like you're trapped in a Modi regime. You end up here and there is no way to escape. Whether you like it or not, you have to see this farcical, performance of this kind of a scoundrels of Ubu and Ubu, right? So here, for example, it's another image of it. But I'll show you kind of a little snippets of that video. I like saying it. I have it with me. That's a banqueting table brought by 3 rats. And the guests arriving in a cage.
कि वो किसानों को खेती करना चाहते हैं भी गर्मी सता की आवश्यकता पड़ती है तो उसका जिम्मा भी हम लेने को तैयार हैं
और अपने आप को राष्ट्रपति घोषित करता हूं। नमस्कार करेंगे देवियों और सज्जनों, मैं आपसे अनुरोध करूंगा कि आप लोग 1 मिनट खड़े हो जाएं और राष्ट्र के प्रमुख की आत्मा की शांति के लिए मौन धारण करें। प्लीज स्टैंड अप फॉर वॉइस।
तुम्हें इस काबिल बनाएगी कि तुम अपने परिवार की बर्बादी का प्रतिशोध लो। उन्होंने तुम्हारा चैन छीना, तुम उन्हें एक पल
सर आटा खत्म हो गया सर।
मैं इस देश का प्रेसिडेंट हूँ, अपने साइज का परोठा नहीं खा सकता।
अब खाओ छोटे छोटे पूरी पराठे।
मजाक कर रहा है मेरा? काट दूं तेरा टिकट?
मैं इतिहास की किताबें लिखता हूँ।
तो मेरे लिए बड़ी मुसीबत बन जाओगी। तो क्यों मैं तुम्हारी जान ले लिया?
मैं उसे आपके सरकार के लाल झंडे तले वापस गद्दी में बिठाने की
Yes, that was the broad snippets of that, and even sense of how the space been created. It's more of like a kind of a jail, where this audience or kind of gathered and the performance take place inside. But again, it's a very kind of very large show with a lot of objects and keep happening around and inside and outside of the performance site. I hope that trying to answer your question, Deepan. I'll try to move on to Manish Mitra, asking about the actors and how to engage with actors and negotiate with actors. Is that it's a very tricky side because because the space we give a lot of focus on the space, and actors are often being trained to get a lot of focus on themselves, basically. And I like that focus on actors themselves, right? And actors get upset when people don't look at actors and they look at something else, because actors quite like to be looked at them. So it's very difficult when you prepare a space, a large space, and they think, will I be seen? Will they be looking at the large structure? Will they be looking at the puppet, or will they be looking at my emotions or my character? So these actors, we have to prepare them. We have to train them for the particular show. So for example, Gasak, the training process took almost 4 to 5 months of working with them in a field. And many of these actions of Legends of Gasak actually we rehearsed in a real space. For example, we rehearsed in a party field almost like 4 days. 4 days we use the real party field to rehearse. Then we have to basically take the people to real port. We have to work with the actors to real site where they have to cook and they have to kind of familiarize with the site before we introduce a constructed site for them to be there. So the process of bringing them to a site like this challenging. But I always found that actors are not very human beings, they're easy people to kind of engage and understand what you're trying to do. And again, one important thing is that it's important things to know. There is no hierarchical order which you can actually kind of resolve this problem. For example, There is no hierarchy in that way. There is a text and design and director and actor. I mean, actors also will have their lot of space in that, within that space. Actors can find their space in there. Not necessarily the way you find their space in a conventional dramatic theater, but in here, their space been kind of marked such a way that they will have their own kind of a role to play within the total language of the production. The total language of the production where the actors become one component rather than the prime factor. So that negotiation is about major negotiation. Actors has to agree to the fact that I will be one component of the total production. So that a puppet, a video image, a music, a firework, a text burned as a war, or a text spoken by an actor, or recorded voice coming from elsewhere. I mean, is all become a components of a performance. An actor also plays one component. The negotiation act will take place there. Once the moment actors are ready to understand that I'm a component here, and I am not necessarily the major factor, that I am the only factor that this performance makes it possible. So once that negotiation is taking place, then things falling in place. And again, that we might have a problem of working with the conventional traditional actors, where we need to have a methodology to work with actors, to train them for that particular work. For that reason, I always believe that one training method for an actor might not be very useful, because first of all the actors are different kind of people. They all come from a different history. They all have a different emotional and physical, status. So we cannot actually have one single model of methodology can be applied to every actor. I mean, you can do various kinds of things, maybe basic things can be do with them. But when we need to work with them in a particular kind of work, with a particular site, then you need to have a very unique methodologies that you have implemented in each and every production. So that methodology can be different from dark things to category to Kazakh Nidhasam to some other play. And also you have to think about an actor from a village is substantially different from an actor from a Delhi National School of Drama, or an Ambedkar University student actor, or a professional actor, or a repertory company actor, or a village actor. These are all different kinds of actors, and we have to kind of negotiate with them all differently. The one model cannot be really applied on them. I mean, it's a larger topic to discuss, and I hope we'll have a conversation on that later. But any of you have another questions, I'll take that. It's already, I think it's
Thank you so much, sir. We do actually have some more questions that have been sent in the chat box. And we also have like somebody who has held out his hand, Saif Rashid. Maybe we would take Saif Rashid's question first, so he can actually say what is on his mind in person.
Yeah, this is going to be, hello, sir. Thank you so much, Mayurakshi. This is a quick one. As an actor, I'm just a little interested in how, because the plays that you saw had beautiful aesthetic, they had stark images, and as an actor, how structured, bound by structure, or fluid would an actor feel in such a, I mean, because there is a light, there's a blocking. How much does structure overpower an actor, or do you think the whole field should be open? How would an actor negotiate with you in that space? Do actors feel restricted or free in that aesthetic? Because there's a very interesting aesthetic to play in, and as an actor, it's very, very inviting. But how limited or free or fluid would you say an actor would feel in your process to construct that play in the collaboration?
Yeah, I mean, I normally do not restrict the actor too much. I like the participatory side of an actor's engagement. So the playmaking process, you give a lot of freedom to the actors to come up with ideas. For example, Uberoi production is very well structured production when you look at it. But all the costume of the production was initially designed by the actors themselves. For example, because I need them to think through their body, because they normally think through their mind, but they have to think through their body. I ask them, how do you want to express with your body, come up with the new costume ideas. And every actor has to dress up like an Ubu or Ubuma. So I had about 16 actors appear as Ubu and Ubuma one day. I give them a lot of material, and I can say, you draw your imaginative Ubu and Ubuma. And once they drew it, and I said, physicalize it. Choose a drawing and you physicalize it, make it. And very complex drawing they made, all of them look like a frog and a chameleon. And they have to basically but make it. And they basically brought the materials from the costume department, they put it together and wear it on and made a display and movement, and also made an improvisation based on that. So the exercise is actually lead them to familiarize with this possibility. So it is not away from. For example, I will not actually give them a large puppet to handle, without them themselves doing it. In Legends of Kazakh, for example, one of the early exercise I gave to the actors was we designed a puppet, and which part of the puppet hand over to each individual. Meaning one person has to make one palm, another person another palm, another person elbow, another person top, shoulder, and a head, body. I mean, total people designed the puppet. And the puppet, we put it together. That was the first prototype of a puppet. Such a participatory exercise of the actors feel that we create an object, we create a costume, we create the scenic space, and they start to own that space. So it is not that designers and the director superimpose that idea to them. It's actually come from them, basically. So they never really come out of that, and that looks very, very crazy space with a lot of things happening. A lot of large objects coming and going, motorbikes and machines and crane and truck, but it's not really something superimposed on them. It's actually often coming from their end.
That's so nice to hear, sir. Thank you so much.
Maurakshi, I guess Deepan must be very tired talking for almost 2.5 hours. So we can at the most welcome one more question and would wait for another opportunity to interact. There are two more questions, I guess.
We will take the 2 questions, okay. I'll quickly respond to that, but we will limit with the 2 questions, okay?
Okay, sir. We have... Okay, I think it's better now. Okay, so we have a question from a participant called Piyush Katal. Piyush Katal ji is asking a very practical question. Sir, in case of mental blocks where ideas sometimes aren't clear, what remedies you use to bring back the creative self? And how can we get the best of our creative self? Are there any individual or group exercises for the same?
You mean mental block, right?
Yes, I think he's asking about the creative process and how you
creative block, maybe he went to the creative block. I think creative blocks are very common thing to all the artists, whether it's visual artists, filmmakers, theatre actors, and all. Some point of we stuck. We don't know where to go, what to do next. I have had such a situation many times without run out of ideas, and we think that how do I solve this problem? There's something which that I have to solve in time, and it's not really solving. And sometimes for a very long period of time, we have creative block too. But I think one important thing I found is that the moment when you feel the block, creative block, you have to look outside of your own song. Immediately open it up. Meaning that if you're a theater person, you should start to see cinema and visual art. And if it's a visual artist, if you have a creative block, you immediately start to see good cinema. And if you're a filmmaker, you start to immediately go and watch more theater. So what is happening in other streets, how other people imagine, how other people solve problems. And such opening up our mind, because theater never actually stay in isolation. Theater is a hybrid form, right? What is happening in literature very much matter for theater. What is happening in the society is very much matter for theater makers. So as visual art, cinema, or object making, any other forms of art. So you, as a theater makers, we are actually privileged because we can always look outside and see whatever see outside is always special for us. You take a walk for a market and just decide to look at the people who sell it, how they sell it. I mean, so there are multiple possibilities how you open it up. We never actually stuck in that way, but you don't necessarily to pocket your own creative, problem, because you can leave it there. If you once the moment your creative stuck with the mental stuck, you don't have to leave it down there. You don't have to take care of it at the moment. You do something else and keep doing something else until the point of time you think that, now I can go back. Now I got some ideas. I've been inspired by all of those things. Okay, last question of the day.
Thank you, sir. The last question is from Soma Das, who is actually a Kolkata-based mime actor. She's
Okay.
asking, what would be the best method for assessing audience experiences of a theater production?
Okay. Well, how important is that to assess the audience response? It's the first question I would like to ask, a counter question. How important is that for an artist to assess how whether people liked it or not? Suppose if they don't like it, what are you going to do with it? You're going to change it? You're gonna redo it? Suppose your performance came to see by 500 people, and 500 people, 250 of them liked it, 250 of them did not like it. Or 251 people liked it, 249 people did not like it. What are you going to do with it? Because 251 people liked it, and almost half of them didn't like it. You're going to change your work, or you're going to go back to your storyboard and you're going to redo and come up with the new ideas? I do not think that you can do that. I mean, of course, audience reaction is important, certainly, because you are performing in front of the audience. But I'm not sure whether you have to actually kind of, think too much about it. Because once you produce a piece of work, you don't do this overnight. You have gone through so much of process of studies and research and rehearsals and feedbacks and many other things that you come up with the final product. A final product is the final product you show the audience. You never allow the audience to come and see the rehearsal, or they come and see your drawing book or the exercise. What do? You don't show that, right? A visual artist normally don't allow them anybody to come to the studio. Why? They don't want to show them their process of their work. They only saw finished product. Once the painting is done, the sculpture is done, installed, they come and ask the audience to come and look at it. Similarly, you are also putting your work in front of an audience. And the audience are not a single unit. Audience are various units. I mean, 500 people come to see, 500 people have 500 visions, 500 ideas. But I don't think we can cater all these people and we can make a piece of work the way they like us to perform. So that's one question. I don't think we performance artists would worry too much about the audience, because we already concerned about them during the process of making our work, right? So it's not like we can redo it. I mean, theater maybe we can redo it. Cinema, I don't think you can redo cinema because some of people don't like it. Once it's done, it's done. But theater, at least, because this is spontaneous possibilities there, because alive and like a human being, and you can keep revising the way you want to do it, and until when you reach a point you like to work your work. I think you have to like your work before anybody else like it, because you are the first audience of your work, right? You have to really like it. Now, I think this is the way I would like to answer this question, actually, because if I try to answer this question, how to assess their feedback, I think it's very, very difficult to assess their feedback. I mean, you can give a feedback question paper to them when they leave their theater, ask them to write, how many percentage you like that actor, this actor, whether you like the lighting, you like the music, like the story, and maybe answer all of this, and you have give that back their question answer in the end. You can collect them and you can look at it. But I don't think this all would make any sense, any difference to your work, what you did, because such a feedback has not much meaning. Because people come in the first time and see their work, and such a feedback is good to hear. Says already a fantastic performance, or you said thank you very much, but doesn't mean that you're really excited and you want to jump all right, because you know what you have done anyway. And if somebody's comment told you it's a bad performance, I mean, you may feel a little upset if people immediately came and said, what a rubbish performance it is. I wasted my 2 hours. Certainly you feel upset, but doesn't mean that you immediately think I'm gonna sit and tonight and change it, and tomorrow will make it and make him happy. I don't think you do that, because making a particular audience happy is not the target of an artist. All right. With that answer, we will wrap it up.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. Okay.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot.
Only thing is there are 2 more comments, Deepan. I would just like to read them out.
Thank you.
You can read out the good comments, and bad comments you can keep it with you.
Okay, so there is a very bad comment that I would like to read out. It was a very enriching experience. It's from Oishik Rai Chaudhary. He says that I would like to be there as an observer when you will be doing the scenography of a play or directing a play. Well,
Once the
Oishik,
COVID is over, we will do it. And we can
Oishik,
start to talk each other without a mask.
yes, and Oishik, we can invite Deepan to direct a play for us, and then we can get an opportunity to not only to observe him, but to work with him as well. And Ram Saidpure, he has mentioned, hello Deepan sir, I saw the Legends of Kashak. I was there for it, folk. It was a very overwhelming experience for me. It was a great session today. Listen to you and very enriching experience. Thank you, sir. Shoma Das has also mentioned thank you. So overall, it was a very, very great session of 2.5 hours, which was supposed to be only 2 hours. Thank you, Deepan.
Yeah.
And
all right, Manish. So good luck with the rest of the lectures. I will try to attend as much as I could. But this is a fantastic idea. I mean, you know, we have different places and we can actually talk and listen to each other, and we can actually kind of get inspired from each other.
Yes, yes, and try to be on a couple of more sessions if you are free. And
I will certainly be with Anuradha Kapoor's and Abhilash's presentation. I will be there. But I'll try to be with yours as well. And as much as I can, I'll be there.
Fine enough. Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.
So tomorrow, who is the speaker? Abhilash, Prabir Go is the speaker tomorrow, no?
Yes.
Who's speaking tomorrow?
It's Prabir Guho, sir.
It's Prabir Guho.
Oh, so Prabir Guho.
And day after tomorrow is Parvati Vaul. So I would also request you to try if you can manage, because you would get to listen to lots of Baul songs. Day after tomorrow is Parvati Vaul. Okay. Bye-bye.
Thanks a lot. Thank you so much.
Okay. Bye-bye. Yeah.
Bye. Thank you so much, sir.
Bye.
Thank you.